Hello grade 10s, it's John here. Today we're doing a really exciting topic. The topic is matter. Now you might say, well, what is matter all about? Well, we're going to show you, and then you'll be in for a surprise because there are so many things that we've got to discuss, and let's have a look at those key details of where our focus is for this session. So here we go, we're dealing with matter today, and we're going to say, what is matter? Well, maybe you can answer that. What is matter? Well, let's see if you're right. Properties of matter. What are some of the properties, and how can we classify matter? The classification of matter. We're going to look at different forms that matter takes in the form of a mixture. There are different types of mixtures. Then we're going to look at pure substances, which include elements and compounds. We'll have quite a lot to say about those, and then we'll notice that all of these examples of matter come in different states. So we'll talk about the states of matter as well. Right, now that's an overview for what we're going to be looking at, but let's start with being really concrete. So what is the stuff that we call matter? Well, you might have an idea. I think that what we need to do is just have a look at a couple of examples. Well, to start off, we've got some stuff here, some yellow stuff in a plastic bag. Let's have a closer look at it. I get it out in my fingers, and you can have a really close look at it. You'll see it's all powdery stuff. All looks the same. You can crumble it, and it forms a yellow powder. Then there's this, which is quite familiar. I'm sure you've seen that around. Polystyrene ball, and then we've got a candle. Now, these are all different. They all are different examples of matter. Here's some foil that you would find at home, and here's some stuff that is also a thin sheet, and it's got a grey colour to it, and it's a kind of a metallic look to it. And here's another bit of metal. You might have seen something like this hanging around. It's quite interesting because this is a brass ball here, and it's used to show a heating experiment, which we haven't got time to do today, but we might get time a little later. And then there's something interesting here. This stuff here has got an interesting property in that if I bring something like that together, it sticks. Take it apart, it doesn't. It pulls together. So all of these are different forms of matter. And, well, what's the general thing that they all have in common? Well, I'd like to suggest to you two big things. That all matter has mass, and all examples of matter have volume. So they occupy space. They take up space. When we say they occupy volume, they take up space. And we're going to come back to these two definitions in terms particularly of the volume when we look at the different phases or states of matter a little later. You've seen that there's a variety of examples of stuff all around you that we would say, yes, this is matter. There are very few things that we can touch and feel and get a hold on and look at that aren't matter. But there are a couple of things that, for example, the sound that you're hearing, it's not matter. Visual things that you see, like a flame or a light burning, the light radiating, that's a form of energy. It's not matter. So there's a difference between matter and energy. And we need to understand that there is that difference. But we're going to focus not on energy today. We're going to focus on matter. So let's move on and let's say, well, what are some of the properties of matter? And all of the examples I've shown you have different properties. Well, one of the things is some of the things that I've shown you, they are strong. Of course, others are weak. So like that yellow powder, it's quite crumbly. It's quite weak. It's not very strong. Then you get some things that are called thermal conductors. We'll have more to say about that. But thermal relates to heat and what happens when you heat something. Is it going to conduct the heat or is it going to insulate? We'll talk about that a little later. Then the next that I have on the list is electrical conductors. Things that conduct electricity and things that don't. And then we have things that are brittle. They break easily. Things that are malleable. Now, when we talk about malleable, we talk about something that can be rolled into a sheet. It can be bent and take a particular form. So we'd say this metal is malleable. And then the second word that is important is ductile. Ductile means that it can be drawn into a piece of wire. So if we take a closer look, I mean, you're very familiar with wire. It's thin, it can be bent. Not all substances can be made into wire, but this metal, this copper metal, is very good as an example of something that is ductile. And then we have something that is magnetic. There are a whole bunch of substances that are magnetic. I showed you an example of one. There are properties that are substances that are magnets, and there's those that have magnetic properties. They're affected by a magnetic field. Then we can say different substances have different densities. That is, they have a different relationship between their mass and volume. So remember, we said all matter has mass and volume, so that means that all matter will have different density. Pure substances have a very specific density, and that's how we can tell they're actually pure, by looking at their density. Another very important thing that we will look at is the boiling point and melting point, particularly of pure substances. These are the points, or the temperatures at which substances change phase. They change phase from a liquid to a gas, and that's boiling point, or from a solid to a liquid, that's its the temperature at that point is called the melting point. Now, all of these are the properties of materials, and of matter in particular. Materials and matter. Materials are just a form of matter that's put together for a purpose. So it's a very important word that you will see and hear. We're focusing on matter today. We're going to look now at how we can classify matter, having looked at some of the properties of matter, and we'll have a little longer look at matter in more detail. Right, now here's a sketch of being able to classify matter. The first thing to say is that we can get pure